If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This is another of our popular Listener's Choice interviews, which we're playing over the weekend. We've chosen the most popular interviews for you to select the Listener's Choice winner. If you're not sure how the Listener's Choice competition works, have a look at horsechats.com/choice for the rules and the leaderboard. Our guest today is Adele Edwards. Adele's got a natural therapy background, and she's combined that with her love of horses and experience with challenging horses to now heal trauma to reform horses and people partnerships. How are you today, Adele?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. So, Adele, tell us a bit about your favourite quote, because I really want to talk a bit more about what you're doing, because it is a little bit different. I think a lot of our listeners will be quite interested. But tell us about your favourite quote first, because that often tells me and tells the listeners a bit about you as a person and, you know, the way your philosophies with horses.
Sure. So for me, freedom is quite important. So freedom for me is the ability to travel in any direction, outside or inwardly. So in terms of progress, I would say with working with horses, we often think about travelling in a forward direction. So in my mind, this is like a one-dimensional point of view. So when we create a deeper connection with horses, we're actually creating a connection which is almost multidimensional. So it's both physical and energetic. And, you know, when we're in a good flow with this, it can be like a form of meditation. So we create stillness and oneness with our horse. And to me, that's, you know, very precious. So, so I mean, even with like athletes and high achievers, you know, they have the ability to still their mind and connect. So when you can connect with your horse and become at one, you know, that's an indication of a deep process that's going on inside of you. So to me, that's where the rider and the horse merge and find a special connection and together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Adele, tell us, I know you're from a non-horse background family, but what was your first connection with horses? What were your first memories?
The first memories, I was around 4 or 5, and, you know, my grandparents would take us camping every Christmas to Deniliquin in New South Wales, and they had friends that had land and horses, and we, you know, would camp there. And there was one particular horse that I became really drawn to, and I'd spend most of my time, you know, with this horse when we'd go away. And the experience I had was, you know, it made such an impact and an impression on me. It was like I was, I don't know, just shift into a different state of being in myself every time I was around this particular horse. And, you know, looking back, I guess it created, I don't know, like a tremendous amount of trust and freedom and safety with the animal. So from this experience, my connection and love for horses became quite evident, and I, you know, sort of journeyed forward in life and would experience that same space within myself around horses, which I believe further increased my connection and joy with, you know, my relationship to horses and how I actually viewed the world, really. Mm-hmm. So that was my first memories.
So then, Adele, you went on then to have your own horses, but then you had a bit of a gap, and then I think you studied natural therapies and you've got a background in that. Tell us a bit about how you combined the two, you know, the natural therapy and you had a problem horse. Just tell us a bit about that story, what happened there.
I have the background in natural therapy, and I worked for the last 20 years with people, and, you know, had got back into horses and ended up with a horse that was quite challenging, and I just had a connection, was very drawn to him, but he wasn't the most easiest horse. He'd had a really bad start and he was quite traumatised and quite scared and athletic, and so he was a bit of a handful when I first got him. And so I, having used this particular healing technique that I used with people, started to apply this to my horse, and, you know, the difference in him in a very short period of time was quite amazing. And I just started to use him as my case study with applying this form of therapy with the horse. So that's how it kind of all came together.
Okay. Now, your background, you're working with horses. Your career with horses is quite different to a lot of people. But if someone's going to work within the horse industry, because, a lot of your clients now, you have got horses and some would work within the horse industry, what sort of core skills or characteristics do you think they need to have a successful career within the horse industry?
I really like the statement that our horse is only as good as our relationship to it. I believe this would also apply within a career, because to me, to teach is to demonstrate, and I think it's important that, we live our truth and we're able to demonstrate that. So building a solid connection both on and off the ground obviously is important, and, establishing, good health and well-being and understanding of the horse also is important. But I would say that, everyone has something important to offer, and to find what resonates with you and do more of that. For me, it would be, be your authentic self, and the skills will develop from there. When you find, what your passion is with horses, you'll, inspire others to do the same for themselves.
Okay.
So for me, that's, I think what's important.
What do you think is the best thing about working with horses and working in the horse industry?
For me is actually, I do like working with situations that are challenging or different, or people that are struggling to find answers for why their horse has, certain issues, and then being able to bring ease and some sort of help and support is what inspires me and drives me to do what I do. So I enjoy trying to work out and help with these issues and try and find an answer or find a way of bringing more ease, I guess. So that's something that really.
But when you're thinking, because you're talking about bringing ease, are you thinking more bringing the ease to the people that have got the horse, or bringing the ease to the horses that are misunderstood? Do you feel like you're sort of on one side or the other, or you just want to bring the combination together?
It's funny, it's been a bit of a journey that's unravelled for me, because, a lot of the time when I'm working with the horse, I can see the horse has got some issues because of the people. And then sometimes I find that through treating the horse, I also end up treating the rider as well, and trying to get this marriage of the, rider and horse together. And that's it's very interconnected. I think for me, it's both almost. There needs to be that harmony between both. So I tend to treat the horse, and then I get asked to treat, do you treat me, as well? So it's kind of blends, yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right then. Now, you've talked about the problem horse that you had, that really influenced you to work a lot more with horses and use your natural therapy background and the healing techniques with horses. But has there been a person that you think has changed your career, or you think it was mainly that horse that put you in the direction? Has there been any sort of changes since then? Anyone that you could say, this person has helped me, or this person has helped me make a decision to change things around?
I think for me, my horse was probably what inspired me. And I kind of found myself there by default, really. Initially, it wasn't something that I was planning on stepping into in that way. It just unraveled that way. But, there's been lots of horsey people that have, also inspired me through their methods. I really love Buck, who was, he has a really great documentary, and he was that man that experienced, adversity in his life, which gave rise to a level of sensitivity within him, which helped him understand the importance of connection and relationship with horses. And I think, people like that have been quite inspiring, that I've sort of looked into along my way for my own interests. But yeah, I would say that my horse now has been the horse that actually was a catalyst that propelled me into this. Yeah.
Yep. Thinking about what you've achieved and the people that you've helped, what's been your proudest moment?
I would have to say there was a lady that comes to mind, and she was in a serious accident with her horse and was put into hospital, and she'd taken this horse thinking she'd just retrain him and sell him on, but realised that, he needed stability and decided to keep him. He was quite scared of humans and also clinically blind in one eye. And so his senses were quite heightened. And after the accident, they couldn't get anywhere near him. For months, he just totally shut down, and the owner couldn't touch him. She couldn't. It took her a few days to even get the gear off him after the accident. And, she said to me, he just won't let me in his circle. And he was kept in a small paddock so that they could even catch him if they needed to or get near him. So she contacted me asking me to come and do some energy work on him. And I went along and I did 3 sessions a week apart. And when I first treated him, he didn't want to borrow me. He walked to the end of the paddock and turned his bum, and that was him saying, go away. And so I just did my thing and came back the second time, and he was a little bit more curious but still not very receptive. But the third time was when he really shifted, and he walked up to me and he stood the whole time at the fence while I treated him. And then after that, everything changed. It was like his fear and his anxiety had just dropped, and she was able to then catch him and start to handle him again. And now she's, back on riding him. And, she said, I haven't been able to ever put him in a paddock without a halter on, and previous owners had the same problem, otherwise they wouldn't catch him. And now he's in the paddock. He's like a different horse. It's almost like he was able to improve even more so than before she'd had the accident. So,
It's almost like a movie, isn't it? It's almost like a story of a movie that you just think, wow, that would be, very emotionally moving type of movie to go to.
So that really made me go, wow, when you can bring about change or help somebody to be able to work again with their horse. Because sometimes I find these traumatised horses and then trying to retrain them when they're carrying all of that, it's really difficult. But if you can release the charge and bring ease and kind of bring them back to a bit of a neutral ground, almost like, hitting the reset button, then you've got something to work with again.
Yeah, so, yeah. Adele, what do you think, thinking about where you are now as an equine professional and a specialist in your field, what do you think's been your biggest challenge on your way to being where you are now?
My biggest challenge would definitely be, because of the way I work, it's quite intangible in that people have to be open-minded to something that is different, because it's not something that you can see necessarily. So that I've found challenging to try and actually explain what I do, because I know what I'm doing when I'm doing it, but then trying to actually put that into a language that helps somebody else understand has been the challenge. And for me, my thing is I want to teach people how to do this themselves with their horse. So I've put it down into a series of steps and repeatable processes that can be learned by, the layperson and almost followed like a recipe. So, people having to suspend doubt and operate from like a cognitively different space is the challenge, I think, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay. No, and I think, people have got to be, because science has allowed us to see that a lot of things that we would have discounted years ago, we wouldn't have accepted this, but whereas now people are a lot more open to different methods of healing and different methods of training and different technologies. So, I'm just thinking you would have, people just have to be open to the idea of what the possibilities are.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me, the proof of watching the shift in the horses, that's where I say, well, the proof's in the pudding. I can't always explain to you exactly what's going on, because sometimes it's beyond my own understanding. I find if I follow the formula, I get the results. And And that, I've had to learn to say, well, if the horse improves, then that's the proof. That's good enough, isn't it?
Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What would you say to someone else who was having success in a field that was a bit different? They were having success, had almost like private success, but they wanted to then go out and spread their message, I suppose. What sort of advice would you give them?
I would say that, being open obviously to different skills and techniques helps you definitely find your way. But I believe the more flexibility you have within your system, the larger your capacity is to create positive change and success in what you're doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm just thinking about the steps, and the repeatable process. And what I'd like to do is talk to you a bit more in depth, but quite possibly, can you just give us, and I don't want you to go into it now, but just a bit of an overview of, a common problem that you would see with the partnership or the marriage between the horse and the rider, and, just something small that our listeners can do to overcome this.
Well, I believe that, obviously there's more to life than the obvious, and the relationship you have with your horse can be symptomatic to what's happening within you. So when you help your horse release its stress, then it's like you're able to help it understand what you're asking. And I believe from there, the transformation between and the dynamic between rider and horse shifts. So increasing the connection and the joy you get from riding and handling horses, I think, is a result of that. So that would be my, thing that I see that people could work on to help their workings with horses.
Yeah.
If you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now, have a look, horsechats.com.
All right. Now, Adele, have you got a book that you could recommend to our listeners? Something that's going to help them just with the partnership, with the marriage between the horse and the rider, something that you would recommend, or just something that's going to give people a bit more knowledge about their horses?
Look, I really love Steve Brady's work, and I think his book, A Formula for Success, is a really great book because the way he explains training methods with horses, I think is a really great way. Yeah, so I would recommend that book. I really enjoyed that book. So,
Okay,
and I guess also to sort of open people up to looking at things in a different way. And this is not really to do with horses, but there's a book by Dr. David Hawkins. He was a psychologist, and the book was Power versus Force, and he explains the difference between being in a higher state of flow and the changes which naturally unfold when you're in that state, so versus trying to force change into something. So I kind of believe when you're working with horses, if you can connect to that innate power that flows through all things and come from that place versus from, trying to force something or, it's almost like coming from a place of connection and oneness with the horse. So I found that book really helpful just to look at things from a different perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll have to have a bit of a look at that one myself. And remember, you can find all the books recommended by our guests at horsechats.com/books. You can have a look at the guest page for the individual book they recommended, or just look at the recommended books by order of popularity at horsechats.com/books. Adele, what are you looking forward to now? What does your future hold?
I guess, I believe that when you're doing, what you love, that things naturally tend to unfold in a positive way. So for me, I'd love to help people find a deeper connection and understanding with their horse and help give them the tools to do that so that they can actually work on their horse themselves, try and work out, where is this problem come? Is it physical? Is it emotional? How can I, clear this from my horse's system? How do I form a deeper connection and get in sync with my horse and have a more intimate connection? So that's what I'm hoping for in the future, to show people how they can do that.
Yep. I think that's good. Okay, now what about if you can sum up your philosophy with horses into a message for our listeners?
So for me, what I said before, our horse is only as good as our relationship to it. So establish a connection and find your authentic expression and live that. Don't be afraid to live it. So that's my philosophy.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, Adele, how can people contact you?
My website, adeleedwards.com.au. I also have a Facebook page, Adele Edwards, where there's some things on there that may be of interest. And, all my contact details are on the website as well.
Fantastic. All right, Adele, well, hopefully we'll talk to you again sometime soon and go into a little bit more depth about the steps, repeatable process that can help people get a deeper connection with their horse and a deeper understanding as well. So it's been really good talking to you. And I've got to say it's a different Adele Edwards to the barrel racer Adele Edwards. And I'm sure, do you get that mix up often?
Look, I actually did the other day. A friend of mine sent me a paper clipping and said, have you been doing something that we don't know about?
Yeah.
So, that was quite funny.
Okay. All right, Adele, good to talk to you, and hopefully we'll talk to you again sometime soon.
Lovely. Thank you.
Now, if you're still there, you probably know that I'm absolutely passionate about education within the horse industry. That's why I host this podcast. My other venture is Online Horse College. Have a look now at onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.